A Virginia Tech shooting survivor turns his traumatic experience into a call for action. Join us for our discussion on gun violence prevention. I'm Angela Ray. This is DC Breakdown. Let's get started.
Breaking through the rhetoric, breaking down the issues. From the nation's capital, this is DC Breakdown.
Collin Goddard is on a mission. He's a Virginia Tech shooting survivor who is using that horrific experience to help reform gun policies. Collin is the senior policy advisor for Everytown for Gun Safety. Collin, it's so good to finally have you on the show. I know we've been trying to for a while, and you're a very busy man, but I really want to say I'm glad to have you here for a lot of reasons. I'm glad you're here, still alive, and I'm glad you're here in the studio to talk to us here at DC Breakdown. You're a very interesting person because you are someone I consider to be a citizen of the world. You've lived all over Africa, you've been to Bangladesh, Cairo, Indonesia, and you finally decided, I'm going to come back to the United States and go to school and, you know, quit all the international traveling I'm doing. And what happened?
It's a great irony, honestly. You know, I grew up in places most Americans would consider very dangerous. Somalia,
yes,
Indonesia, Egypt when the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan began. And all the while my friends and family here were were like, please move back home to the States where it's safe. And sure enough, I go to college, enroll in a small Southwest Virginia university, Virginia Tech, and in my fourth year I get put in the most dangerous situation of my life. I get shot 4 times in the worst single gunman mass shooting in our country's history, and it altered the course of my life forever.
Tell me about that day. You were in a specific class. Was it economics? What was the class?
I was an international relations major, so I was taking a French class at 9 a.m. on Monday mornings, and it was, you know, started normal like every other one. You usually talk about what you did the previous weekend, and but about halfway through the class, one of our students, another student came in late, and she was probably one of the best students in our class. So the fact that she showed up halfway through was kind of odd. So we looked at her and said, Rachel, you know, why'd you come so late? And she said, well, there was a shooting in my dorm this morning and the whole building was on lockdown. Like they wouldn't let anybody come or go. I kept telling them I had class to get to. They said, sorry, you can't leave. Until finally they let me go. So I came straight here. And we looked at her like, what? You know, there was a shooting on campus and we hadn't heard about this? I thought that was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But we thought, okay, well, you know, they let Rachel go to class, so things must be all right. And we continued. Probably was only a few minutes after that, we heard this loud, like, bang, 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 from what sounded to be outside of our building. They had been doing construction right next to us all semester. We thought it was another nail gun or a hammer or something like that, and class continued. And then that same bang happened much louder and much closer to our classroom. You could tell this was not outside, this was something down the hallway. And at that point, the teacher's expression dropped, and she looked at all of us really concerned. She went immediately to the doorway to look into the hallway where you could hear the noise coming from, and as soon as she opened the door, she turned around and she slammed it shut, and she said, everybody underneath your desk, somebody call 911.
And there's no, not able to lock the door, not able to keep...
No locks on the door, the only door to the classroom. I thought of the windows on the opposite side of the room for a split second. In retrospect, I'm glad I didn't, because I probably wouldn't be here. Those are very difficult to operate. So we just had nowhere to go. We were also in disbelief. I mean, you know, conjugating French verbs, and then you hear gunshots down the hallway. I mean, it's just difficult to understand. And so we did what she said. Ultimately, jumped to the floor just as bullets started coming through the front door of our classroom.
Now, I want to stop you for a second. The shooting that took place in the young lady's dorm, this was the same shooter?
Yeah, same shooter 2 hours prior. And he had, in the meantime, between those 2 incidents, had walked back to his dorm room, changed, actually mailed his manifesto tape all the way across campus in the post office, went back, got more guns and ammunition, and then came to our academic building.
So for the first shooting, no one heard it, meaning, you know, security guards, no one in the dorm?
Police were on scene, police were investigating. They thought it was a domestic incident. They thought it was a girlfriend or a boyfriend kind of dispute.
Know who they were looking for?
No, all they had was a bloody footprint in the hallway, and that was it. And, you know, in retrospect, you know, they probably could have made different assumptions and done different actions to put the rest of the school on the same level of alertness. I mean, we had the president's office on lockdown, the vet schools on lockdown, some of the neighboring middle schools and elementary schools in the town were aware, but we had no message.
And the young lady who's, was in the dorm, who came to class late, she survived the shooting, the incident that happened in the dorm, but when she came back to French class, as you said, she came late. She's not the kind of person to come late, and unfortunately, she did not make it.
I mean, she took the first seat available to her right in front of the door. We found her in her chair, apparently. She wasn't able to make it to the floor. So, difficult morning, to say the least. There were 17 people in that room with me that morning, and I'm one of 7 people who are alive today. Everyone was shot multiple times. I was shot 4 times. It felt like hours on the floor. In retrospect, I learned it was 9.5 minutes from start to finish.
What were you planning on pursuing career-wise prior to this happening to you?
I think I was like some college students looking at graduation with a big question mark afterwards, not really sure what to do.
But you have an international background, and you were studying international relations and French, so...
It's true.
Yeah.
I was pointed in that direction and wanted to engage somehow in kind of helping right some of the wrongs in this world. My parents have spent their whole lives trying to improve the situation of people in different countries, and that was where I was going. And then I had this event happen to me here that opened my eyes to a world I knew very little about before, about guns in America. And what I learned about how we try to keep guns away from dangerous people and only in the hands of good people was shocking. The fact that we don't even do a background check on every gun sale was something I assumed was already taken care of, right?
Yeah.
So what I learned about this issue and how poorly we do when it comes to, keeping guns away from dangerous people was, I thought, an opportunity for me then to help, as my parents have done internationally, here in the U.S., try to improve the situation so these same shooting events don't keep happening to other people. I mean, we've continued to watch mass shooting after mass shooting unfold in this country, and we have done nothing.
And the NRA does not have a lock on the Second Amendment. You are proud of the Second Amendment. You're like, I'm all for the Second Amendment. So am I.
I've been shooting many times.
Absolutely. What does that have to do with the proliferation of guns in this country? My goodness, we just talked to Jesse Jackson last week about what's happening in Chicago, the murder rate there. But you know what, when I watch a show, even if I'm watching MI5, which of course is the British version of the FBI, I always forget they don't carry guns. The amount of guns that are here in the United States, it's nothing like it is in Europe. This is a gun-crazed society, and you're right. These people who have issues are still able to get their hands on guns because we don't have a system down that's going to protect us from people who have no business with a gun in their hands. And so background checks has become something that you focused on.
Yeah, requiring a background check for every gun sale, I think, is the issue of gun policy in our time. I think most responsible people would want to know the person who's about to buy the gun from them can legally do that. And the way we do this in America is with a 90-second background check. We do it at sales from stores that sell guns, from dealers that sell guns, but we don't require that same background check when they go to a gun show or if they go post it on the internet or have people post it or whatever.
That's insane. I've been to gun shows. I've walked around the entire facility, and I can buy a gun without them doing any check. It's just why is the system like this?
Good question. People can probably write books on that answer, but I think generally, if you compare the U.S., which is a high gun ownership per capita country, with other countries with high gun owner per capita, which like Canada or Switzerland, we see an astronomically higher rates of gun homicides and suicides and accidental shootings. And so we try to look, where is it? And I think one part that stands out is the gun policies, the gun laws. I mean, in our country, we let the gun industry set what the laws are. And I think the population, the general public, has been quiet for too long. The last time the public was really outraged and got really organized and focused, we succeeded. We instituted the background check. That happened in 1994 with Jim and Sarah Brady. And the limitation on what types of guns you could buy, the assault weapons ban, happened soon after that. That was when the public was engaged on this issue. Then the public stopped being engaged fundamentally. We had less money going to elected officials who could stand up and say, this is something I support. And over the years, it just dwindled into this situation that we're in today. And so what we're trying to do at Everytown for Gun Safety, why I wanted to join this effort, was to help wake up Americans who don't, who were not here for that previous fight in some cases and don't know a way out of this madness, and to educate them, say, look, there are some steps that we could take that we haven't done yet, and we'll go great lengths to improve how we keep a gun away from a dangerous person, not remove guns from America.
Right.
That's what people think that our goal is. That's not our goal.
But that's just because that's the PR machine that the NRA has. It's a huge PR machine.
Yes, it's easier to keep things black and white.
Right, that's right.
To raise funds and things like that.
Yeah.
But when you actually talk to the nuances, when you break through and speak to the specifics of what we're trying to do, require a gun background check for every gun sale in America, that's when you get 90% support. We have consistent high levels of public polling on this issue once you break it down to the specifics. You can't say more gun control, less gun control, or stricter gun laws or less strict gun laws. That doesn't, it's kind of abstract.
Right.
When you get specific to it, you have the high level of public support. So truly it will be just a matter of time when that public support remains that our elected officials will realize this is also good politics. And so that's part of what we're trying to do.
And when we look at the guy responsible for the shooting on your campus, Isla Vista, Sandy Hook, I mean, the mental illness that was a part of all this, and the fact that the rest of us don't know about it. I mean, the background check. Your guy, did he have a background check?
He did, but his record was missing.
But his there's always a hitch in the giddy-up, but the record is missing. Or the police went to the guy's house with the Isla Vista shooting because his parents said something was wrong, but he seemed fine to them and they left. Did anybody look around for all the guns he had in the house? Your voice is needed because the NRA has taken over this issue and they control this issue. They control it on the right, and the left seems to be afraid oftentimes to challenge them. And the president needs to step up to the plate and to really challenge the NRA and to do something, because we don't have anything that's been done differently since Sandy Hook, all these mass shootings, and what?
Right. Well, the president did put together a very comprehensive package after Sandy Hook that encompassed a lot of what we tried to do, and I think brought a lot of groups together and kind of focused us again in the same direction. Unfortunately, he can't do it all himself. He needs Congress, and we had a big vote in the United States Senate last year, and the headlines in the newspaper will say the vote failed. We only had 55 votes. We didn't break the Republican filibuster. But in normal democracies, a 55 is the majority that you need, right? We had a majority. We just didn't break the numeric barrier that was put on us. But regardless, that same bill today in the House of Representatives has more co-sponsors, like 180 co-sponsors, has more co-sponsors than any piece of good gun policy has ever had, ever, even more so when Jim and Sarah Brady were doing this fight in the mid-90s. So so we are close, I'm trying to say politically. Now it's just getting the American public who will answer consistently on a poll, do you support background checks, to pick up that phone, to write that letter, to meet their congressman in person and say, this is something I care about. And that's what we're trying to do with Everytown. That's what we're trying to do with our Gun Sense Voter Initiative, to organize and register 1 million Gun Sense voters by this November. We're more than halfway there already.
All right.
We want people to make this an issue that they care about and let their elected official know that they care about, so then they can then stand up and realize the whole world's not going to fall down, the NRA is not going to kick them out of office, and that they can vote on these things, and then this will change. We have not had any major elections since Sandy Hook. This November will be the first major one, and you will see a lot more energy, a lot more finances, unfortunately, which is what you need to play this game now, on this side of our debate. And so the NRA won't be the loudest voice out there anymore.
That's right.
And that's what we're going to need.
That's right. We need you to continue to be the squeaky wheel. Collin Goddard with Everytown for Gun Safety. It's good to finally have you in the studio, and I know you're getting married here very soon, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And DC Breakdown says, have a wonderful life.
Thank you so much.
All right.